Hi, I'm Mike Damergis, and welcome to Week 13 Email Advisor with the King, Scott Engel. And, we finished Thanksgiving. Now Christmas is just a few weeks away here. The season's flying by.
Yes, Christmas, Hanukkah coming up, and what everybody wants is a gift for the holidays, is a fantasy football championship. Week 13, a critical week. Decisions are magnified. For a lot of people, it's win and get in or sew up a certain seeding or berth.
So let's get right to the emails, shall we?
Yes.
Gulmer123, I need a flex player for this weekend between Brandon Lloyd and Jonathan Dwyer. I'm concerned about Dwyer without big playing and their old line. What are your thoughts, Scott?
Wait, you're not concerned about Brandon Lloyd? You're concerned about Jonathan Dwyer? Have you seen Brandon Lloyd's numbers? This year, he's been non-existent in fantasy football on a terrific offense. Brandon Lloyd is not even rosterable in a 10-team league. You can't start Brandon Lloyd right now. Look, I know you're worried about Jonathan Dwyer or possibly Charlie Batch at quarterback, but the Steelers have to run the ball. Dwyer is guaranteed carries. Brandon Lloyd has been awful. There's no way you can play him. The worst of two evils is definitely using Jonathan Dwyer.
Charlie Batch, that name, just Charlie Batch, my good friend.
Charlie Batch. Yes. Charlie Batch is shorts on the highway.
Shorts on the highway. K-Dog, I have just won my division. I have a pretty good team, but weak on defense. The Texans on the waiver wire are the Chargers, Rams, Redskins, Dolphins, Jets, Vikings as the top-rated teams. I'm looking for good matchups for the next 4 weeks, so can I pick up a couple of defenses? I think the Jets look pretty good. What do you think? Is he insane? The Jets look good?
Well, he said he has the Texans as his main defense. What people are doing here is they're trying to look for one or two defenses for the rest of the way and look too far ahead, especially if they've clinched a playoff spot. You can't do that. With defenses, especially when you're talking about the caliber that you're talking about, you got to take it 1 week at a time. There's really not a rest of the way answer. Take it 1 week at a time because you need to nail that playoff berth. If you did, so much changes from defenses from week to week.
Absolutely.
There's injuries, and then the teams they're facing might have injuries or something like that. So you can't look too much ahead to week 14 and 15 because the environment might change a little bit. Even key injuries on defensive and offensive line. Just use the Texans this week. They should bounce back. I like the matchup against Tennessee. The Texans are the best of all the units that you mentioned, although I do kind of like the Jets this week against Arizona. But don't get ahead of yourself. I'm hearing too much of that. I want a defense for week 14, 15, 16, the rest of the way. Unless you have like the Bears or the 49ers, there isn't a sole answer. So get through this week and worry about next week.
And it's funny thinking about the Texans since that great matchup against the Bears. They've gone downhill ever since then, so that's kind of ironic.
Well, Jonathan Joseph being out in the lineup has certainly hurt them last week, in the passing game. But the Texans have the talent to rebound. They're playing against Tennessee 1 week at a time, one game at a time. It sounds cliche, but for fantasy defenses, when you're streaming them, you got to take that into account.
Yeah, you can't be perfect 16 weeks, right?
Right.
Moving on, Wilkie Way. I thought Wabbit. For my flex position, should I start Vic Ballard or Chris Givens?
Well,
Scott.
Vic Ballard, might start ceding more carries to Donald Brown. He's a mediocre, adequate fantasy player at best, and this is an important week. Chris Givens has more upside. Kind of reminds me of Terrence Mathis when Terrence Mathis was playing. A guy who can separate, a guy who can get down the field. Chris Givens has big playability. Go with Chris Givens for more upside.
Okay, moving along. Seed trees. I have Jermichael Finley for my tight end. Would you play him this week? I could pick up Mercedes Lewis or Dallas Clark as well.
Forget Jermichael Finley. Way overrated. Mercedes Lewis is the pickup. Done. Finished. Over. Ever since Chad Henne became the starter, Mercedes Lewis is a relevant fantasy tight end. Again, right near around the top 10, somewhere between 7 and 10 right there. He can catch key passes and he can score touchdowns.
I always like
Mercedes Lewis for sure.
I always like driving Mercedes.
That was bad. Move on. You could have made a bad joke about Pebbles like Mercedes boy.
Razor Ray, or you could call me Jay. I need one.
He does that every week.
I need one at running back. B.D. Wells, Matt Forte, or Rashad Jennings. And one at wide receiver, Ty Hilton, Bo, or Sidney Rice, Scotty.
Okay, let's go with the running backs first. Looks like Matt Forte is going to play. If he does, you use him, especially over those other running backs. What were the wide receiver choices? T.Y. Hilton.
T.Y. Hilton, Bo, or Sidney Rice.
Bo, you can't use him right now. Don't like Rice's matchup. T.Y. Hilton has a lot of upside. Hilton is the play there.
Go with T.Y. or Ty.
Yes.
You could call me Ray.
I'm waiting for this video, man. This has been like the worst of all season.
If you want to contact the King, Scott Engel, how do they do it, Scotty boy?
Email advice right here on RotoExperts.com, that tab right on top of the homepage. And don't forget, play fantasy football for a great cause. RotoExperts.com/fantasy cares. You can play. It's a weekly game, and you donate to a great cause, helping retired NFL players with their needs while playing fantasy football. Fantasy cares right here on the homepage.
Okay, that's a wrap up on week 13.
Thank God.